Namaskar. Indeed, it is a historic day as Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Prime Minister Xi Jinping began their second informal summit, this time in the UNESCO World Heritage 1,300-year-old Pallava dynasty temple town of Mamallapuram. The ancient Indian and Chinese cultures have both influenced the cultures of Southeast Asia, and Mamallapuram played an important role in this connect. The relationship between India and China is multidimensional and not based on any one or two issues. The informal summit continues tomorrow when Prime Minister Modi and President Xi engage in delegation-level discussions. The Mamallapuram Summit is in focus tonight on Newsnight. I'm Mark Lynn. Here are the headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping create history, begin their second informal summit against the stunning backdrop of Mamallapuram, reflecting centuries-old cultural ties. The talks between the two leaders is expected to further strengthen bilateral ties. Chinese President Xi Jinping given a traditional Tamil welcome at the Chennai airport. Prime Minister Modi takes President Xi on a walking tour through the rich architectural marvels of the UNESCO World Heritage Site of Mamallapuram. The Chinese President also given a cultural program at the Short Temple. The Chinese President gets a glimpse of India's cultural heritage at the program at the Short Temple. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu holds delegation-level talks with President of Comoros, witnesses the signing of 6 MoUs between two countries. The Vice President also honored with Comoros' highest civilian honor, the Order of the Green Crescent. Also addresses the Assembly of Comoros in Moroni. The Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman says that talks with the automobile sector are on and efforts are being made to resolve the problems they face, and the FM has welcomed all suggestions. The election campaign gains momentum in Maharashtra and Haryana. The BJP President Amit Shah campaigns in Maharashtra, targets the Congress and the NCP for promoting dynastic politics. The Congress's manifesto is released in Haryana. Focus is given to farmers, to the poor and women. The Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed Ali wins the 2019 Nobel Peace Prize for his efforts to resolve his country's conflict with its bitter foe, Eritrea. An Indian captain, Virat Kohli, hits a double century in the Pune cricket test and declares India's first innings at 601 for 5, and South Africa trail by 565 runs with 7 wickets remaining in the first innings on day 2. Well, let's begin with updates on the Chinese President Xi Jinping's visit to Mamallapuram. And in the backdrop of the 7th century monument of the Panch Ratha, overlooking the Coromandel coast of the Bay of Bengal, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Chinese President Xi Jinping took a stroll and sipped fresh coconut water, in fact, in a relaxed, informal atmosphere, creating positive atmospherics. Dressed in a Tamil attire of Veshti, white shirt and Angavastram, the Prime Minister played the perfect host, taking the Chinese President for a guided tour of the famous World Heritage Sites. The Pallava dynasty's historic links with China's Fujian province morphed into modern chemistry between the two leaders, and the throwback to the Wuhan informal summit. Here's more.
Two ancient civilizations, two modern leaders, two Asian giants, and a moment in history, a historic moment. Prime Minister Narendra Modi hosting President Xi Jinping for the second informal summit at Mamallapuram. The significance of the setting adds to the import. Mamallapuram acted as a bridge between India and China between the 6th and the 9th century AD, when the Pallava dynasty was at its pinnacle. The monuments here show that India has always played a central civilizational role in global trade and commerce. Prime Minister Modi explained the significance of these monuments and temples dating back 1300 years. What sets them apart from the other historical site is the fact that they are not museums, they are living monuments. The first stop for the leaders was the unfinished cave that is part of Arjun's penance. Most say it depicts the Pandava prince trying to propitiate Shiva to get the Pashupat Astra. Some say it depicts Bhagirath trying to bring Ganga to earth. Be that as it may, apart from showcasing India's civilizational heritage, these monolithic rock sculptures also highlight India's ability to live in harmony with nature. At Arjun's penance, there are 20 scenes with animals, but none is of violence or hunting. Next, it was turn of Krishna's butterball, a marvel of nature. This single rock piece carving defies gravity. PM Narendra Modi and President Xi Jinping stood beneath this gigantic granite boulder, 6 meters high and 5 meters wide, weighing around 250 tons and resting on a short incline. Mythology has it that this symbol of Krishna's favorite food fell from heaven. It is believed that several kings of Pallava lineage tried to dislodge the butterball but failed. In 1908, Governor of Madras, Sir Arthur Law, also failed despite 7 elephants tugging and pulling to remove it. The two leaders walked through the ancient complex of Pancharathas in Mamallapuram. Each of the 5 monuments in the premises resembles a chariot and is carved from a single long stone depicting Dharmaraj Rath, Bhim Rath, Arjun Rath, Draupadi Rath and Nakul Sahadev Rath. Once again, there is a second theory that suggests that Draupadi Rath is actually a Durga temple with the lion she rides standing guard outside. Taking a break, the two leaders sat down to some Nariyal Pani at the Pancharatha complex. This was a throwback to the Chai Pe Charcha in Wuhan, when the two leaders chatted over several cups of tea by the East Lake and then during the boat ride on the lake, the first informal summit. As the sun set along the Bay of Bengal, the shore temple took on a different hue. From the golden glow to the calm blue, PM Narendra Modi and Chinese President Xi continued their conversation against the backdrop of the magnificent temple, the last of the monuments visited by the two leaders in Mamallapuram. The temple is one of the oldest in southern India and has withstood the wrath of nature, housing 3 shrines, of which the prominent ones are dedicated to Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu. The scenes depicted on the carved walls of the temple depict everyday life, almost signifying the coexistence of the divine and the mortal. The free-flowing nature of the informal summit at UNESCO World Heritage Site will certainly continue and deepen the contacts at the highest level, guiding the future trajectory of India-China relationship. The bonhomie between the two leaders at the site of ancient engagements between the two civilizations will ensure deepening of people-to-people ties in Asia's century, the 21st century. With Amritpal Singh and Philip Matthews, DD India.
So what exactly is the significance of the Mamallapuram Summit? Let's take a look at some of the points that we have got here. What is the significance? The Prime Minister has a vision of taking foreign dignitaries out of Delhi as it promotes business, commerce and tourism. That's one of the ideas, and that it perhaps come through. Among the many other World Heritage cultural sites in India, Mamallapuram has a strong China connection. So that's extremely important as well. The Prime Minister's diplomacy is to strengthen personal bonds with world leaders. So we can see that that is happening. This is the only informal summit arrangement that China has with any country, any major country of the world. And this, we know, is the second such informal summit. India-China ties are not based on 1 or 2 issues, The bilateral ties are forward-looking and they have many issues. It's multiple issues. Both countries enjoy age-old trade, business and cultural ties. That's significant, obviously, from Mamallapuram itself. It dates back to ancient times. India and China ties show peaceful coexistence as a trend. This can be seen down the centuries because not only where is this visible, it is visible not only in India and China, it's visible in Southeast Asia because this entire region shows peaceful existence of both cultures being influenced in these areas. So that itself, that shows you what the significance of the Mamallapuram Summit is and the setting of the Mamallapuram Summit. Now from Wuhan to Chennai, President Xi Jinping arrived in Chennai, in fact, to a warm and colorful welcome. This is for the second informal summit with Prime Minister Narendra Modi taking off from the Wuhan spirit. The Chennai spirit will continue to chart the future course of India-China partnership. Let's take a look at this report.
Chennai rolling out the red carpet to welcome Chinese President Xi Jinping for the second informal summit between India and China. A mini India presented itself at the airport as President Xi touched down. The excitement reached new heights when President Xi arrived at the airport. The artists welcomed him with traditional dance performances showcasing India's diversity and rich cultural heritage. The Chinese head of state reciprocated the sentiment when he stopped for a few moments to appreciate the performances. Tamil Nadu Governor Banwarilal Purohit, Chief Minister E.K. Palanisamy and Speaker of Tamil Nadu Assembly P. Dhanapal received him at the airport. The spirit of Atithi Devo Bhav reverberated in the atmosphere. This welcome was a throwback to the hospitality he offered to Prime Minister Modi in 2015 in his hometown Xi'an during Prime Minister's first official visit to China. The shared heritage of both the nations is one of the reasons for such impeccable hospitality. In 2014, when the Chinese head of state visited India, he got a glimpse of myriad Indian culture in Ahmedabad, with Prime Minister playing the host. Cultural ties play a vital role in strengthening diplomatic relations. This has stood true for India and China, who have always maintained a close connect, finding amicable solutions to sticky issues. The future of India waving flags, the tricolour and the flag of China, symbolized the future ahead of the two Asian giants as visualized by Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Xi Jinping. With Abhishek Jha and Amritpal Singh in Chennai, DD India.
And so this brings us to our In Focus point tonight, and In Focus is a meeting of two great cultures is going to be in focus tonight. And for that we have two guests in the studio. Bhaswati Mukherjee is former senior diplomat and Kamaraga, expert on foreign and strategic affairs. Thank you very much, gentlemen, ma'am and sir, for being with us. And also we have with us our correspondent Amritpal Singh, who's joining us from Mamallapuram. Amrit, are you with us?
I am, Mark.
Yes, so Amrit, let's start with you now. Put into context everything that happened today. Let's start with the highlights, let's say, or the key takeaways.
Well, I think the most significant part of it today was the symbolism of it, and the very fact that the dinner, which is well stretched beyond its scheduled time. It's more than 2 hours that the dinner is going on. So that means that the two leaders are talking. And let me give you a sense of the dinner settings. This is a 1+8. That means 8 from the Chinese side, 8 from the Indian side. So there are 8 tables. On one particular table there are 2 people. So that means Prime Minister Modi and President Xi are on one table. So for 2 hours the two leaders will be talking. They took a break of at the Pancharath they sat for about 20 minutes. So, and they sipped tender coconut water. So it's not only coconut water that they sipped. They obviously talked about bilateral issues, about issues of geopolitics. So that means that the talks of the informal talk, the informal summit has already begun. begun.
Absolutely.
Yes, of course, the visit to the monuments and the World Heritage Sites, but during that, in that informal setting, the two leaders are already talking, and also not just the two leaders, but also the delegations accompanying them. Now, when we talk about 1+8, we have Politburo members of the Communist Party there. From the Chinese side, we have their foreign minister. From the Indian side, we have the Indian External Affairs Minister. We have the National Security Advisor. We have the Foreign Secretary. We have basically the top political leadership and the officialdom related to China, so, and from their side as well. So given that, I think the two sides have already started talking. It's more than just what the optics of it, more than just the cultural performances. Those
yes, Amrit, obviously
for the talks.
Okay, yes, obviously, but you know, they are soaking in the culture as well, which is extremely important because the setting is important. And you know, even the dinner menu is typical South Indian food. So all that, you know, is important in understanding the importance of, you know, the role that culture plays in this relationship. Perhaps that's important as well before they really get down to the serious matters.
That's right. There's a scroll that's running at the bottom of our screens which says, "She gets a taste of India." So it's really the taste of India, be it the visit to the temples, be it the visit to the 7th century AD monuments, which are now World Heritage Sites, be it the Tamil cuisine of, you know, idli, dosa, the rasam, the sambar, like the tomato rasam, the chettinad chicken. So it's really culture diplomacy, it's really dinner diplomacy, be it the performance of Bharatanatyam or Kuchipudi. So in that sense, it's really a cultural feast for the Chinese president and his delegation. But in these settings, the issues that the two sides engage on are being talked about, and the very idea of the informal summit is that approach difficult issues in a setting which is more subdued, which is more informal, where the leaders can be more relaxed and then can engage in a sort of give and take, which probably is an impediment, say, in a formal setting of a Hyderabad house in New Delhi. So in that sense, when the gentle breeze of the Bay of Bengal
what about tomorrow then, Amrit?
Having nice Tamil dishes.
Yes. What about tomorrow then? Because that's you know, it is informal, but it seems to be taking on, you know, delegation level talks. In a sense, it brings in some sort of formality in it, one would think, and perhaps, you know, the serious issues that have been discussed already while they were talking, as you did say, you know, these issues in an informal setup help to take things forward. They can actually be brought and discussed more seriously tomorrow at the delegation level talks. Can you know, highlight some of these issues?
Well, tomorrow what happens at 10 o'clock, the one-on-one talks between Prime Minister Modi and President Xi happen for about 50 minutes. That's what they've scheduled for, 40 to 50 minutes. They can go on longer as the dinner has stretched itself more than 2 hours now. Then there is a delegation, then the delegations meet. There are delegation level talks. We expect opening statements from both sides, and then there's a lunch hosted for President Xi before he departs for Chennai, and from there on for Nepal. That's the schedule for tomorrow. Now, what would be covered? The entire gamut of the relationship, not just the bilateral relationship, the geopolitics, the area, the region, world over. Be it issues which affect not only just India and China, like climate change, UN reform and things like that, but also issues which are very, very bilateral in nature, which range from defense to security. Terror is going to be a main issue that the two sides are going to discuss, Mark. Confidence building measures, how to enhance them, how to scale them up. One major outcome of the Wuhan summit was that the two sides had agreed to what was being called as giving strategic military guidance to their respective militaries. The idea was that when Wuhan happened last year, it was in the backdrop of Doklam, which was just get resolved. And the idea was to increase the engagement so that such a face-off is not repeated. If armies do come face to face, as they would in such a situation when you have a 4,000-kilometer border which is not demarked, or you have different perceptions of it, you think your border begins there, they think their border begins here.
True.
Armies will move up and down, but it can be perceived as transgressions or incursions. How to avoid those face-offs, how to diffuse the situation without it getting into an eyeball-to-eyeball flared-up situation. So that has worked well, but how to upgrade those CBMs, they may not be announced tomorrow, they may be announced after the SR level talks happen later next month, but yes, I think there will be a we are expecting a forward movement on that. Trade is going to be another major issue, because as you know, the trade deficit is a big deficit. There's a yawning deficit of about $70 billion US. How to take that forward? It was discussed at Wuhan, but how to take the roadmap forward, because not much movement has happened. So all this would be discussed tomorrow. Mark.
Thanks very much, Amrit, for those inputs, and for covering this for the whole day and giving us those regular inputs through the day. We have guests in the studio, Baswati Mukherjee, senior diplomat, former senior diplomat, and Kamaraga, expert on foreign and strategic affairs. Thank you very much for being with us once again. Ambassador Mukherjee, so we heard what Amrit was saying, and really let's talk a little bit first about the setting and whether it has any significance with regard to the Bay of Bengal and the sea and, let's say, the Indo-Pacific.
Yes, the setting has huge significance because first of all it demonstrates the historical, cultural and civilizational connect between the two countries. This is a place that had been visited by Huan Sang, who had written about it, and this is also a favorite destination for Chinese tourists when they come here. So the fact that it was selected also demonstrates that in many ways China and India have many civilizational heritages in common, both tangible and intangible. And this is something which actually joins the two countries in multilateral agencies like UNESCO. On the other hand, it also provides an opportunity against this cultural backdrop to have a discussion on serious issues, but in an informal way which would take out the irritants of record takers, etc., but where the two leaders would be able to sit down and try and iron out the irritants, given the fact that it's a completely informal dialogue and some parts of it is apparently without record takers. So that's very, very significant.
Kamaraga, put into context for us the importance of the ties in terms of, let's say, China has the agenda of the Belt and Road Initiative. India is being asked to play a bigger role in the Indo-Pacific region. How does this balance out in in this kind of a setting?
There are a number of such issues, that can be sorted out only in this atmosphere. Only in this, because as Ambassador just mentioned, these are very difficult and delicate issues, needs a lot of discussion between the two leaders. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi is good at it, both the leaders in fact, And Doklam has changed everything, China has now come to understand pressure will not work with India. So therefore, now the best thing is to start developing direct ties or negotiation with the Prime Minister Modi. Then Wuhan happened, and now this is second informal. 16 times, the Prime Minister Modi has met. This is the 16th time he is meeting with Modi. So a lot of bonhomie has come, and close relations have developed between the two. They have started understanding each other concerns also. Idea is to, there is another thing. These are the two most powerful nations in Asia.
Yes.
The biggest armies they have, both, and both are nuclear weapon, have nuclear weapon. So confrontation is not possible between the two countries. These are the two economies are also, very big economies, major economies,
Right.
And growth engine generally considered by the other countries, as a growth engine for further development in Asia Pacific
Sure.
or Indo.
So let's take this
European.
economic aspect a little more seriously. Ambassador Mukherjee, you know, currently also there is the RCEP meeting that's going on, and well, India and China are also, you know, in that FTA of RCEP. There is concern that, you know, China actually stands to benefit such a lot, and not only with they get access to well, all those other countries like, let's say, Australia, New Zealand, and all those countries get access to our markets, but China will continue to, you know, have greater say in most trade affairs, and they already have a huge trade surplus. So this is going to be quite difficult for India in this RCEP negotiations. Would you think that that would, you know, be an important point that will be discussed at this summit?
Well, the RCEP, the negotiations, actually India has to decide whether at this point of its development, whether such free trade agreements are actually beneficial or not. There is the opinion is divided, frankly. So I don't know whether the RCEP would really figure, but what we would expect tomorrow are huge economic takeaways, given that there's a big business delegation that has gone. The total size of the delegation, I'm told, is about 90 persons.
90 people, yes.
And
right.
there are so many business people. The Chinese economy has not been doing so well. China is interested in increasing FDI flows into India.
Okay.
It is interesting that China has never brought FDI flows into Pakistan. And we would expect, therefore, big economic takeaways tomorrow being announced. As far as RCEP is concerned, yes, the problem is that when you are a smaller sized economy and you make those concessions, initially you may not benefit. So
right.
That may be a discussion going on in the sidelines among the senior officials who would be having delegation level talks as to how India
Okay.
should proceed on this.
Right.
On RCEP.
And Mr. Haga, with regard to the trade deficit, which is, you know, continuing to increase, I mean, this is only from 2001 onwards, because before that it was quite balanced. So this is, you know, something that's part of the, let's say, the so-called Asian century, and it looks like, you know, this gap is widening. What can really be done to arrest it? Because the real problem is that China is flooding the entire world with manufactured goods, and they are basically just importing raw materials and in intermediates, I mean semi-raw materials in a sense. That's the situation.
You know, there are a number of things. We have a trade of almost $95.5 billion bilateral trade between the two countries, and deficit is huge. I think 57.
Yes, that's right, 56.
Yeah. So therefore, you know, now India has proposed number of measures. You know, ask Chinese, you know, that they should open up their market. You know, particularly, you know, we want to export. IT sector, you know, companies of IT sectors, you know, wanted to go and invest there or product there. Secondly, pharmaceutical is one. Service sector we are doing very well, you know.
Yes.
So that is that industries. Plus there is also desire, you know, that there are many, you know, we are importing number of items from China, large number of, in fact, you know. So that there is a desire, you know, that China should manufacture them here, bring manufacturing here, because we have the very cheap and one of the finest labors available in this country, you know. We have which is computer savvy, English speaking. So therefore, a lot of European companies are already, the Chinese, the Japanese are here, the South Korean companies are working here. Why can't, you know,
the Chinese companies too
come here and manufacture it here, and they can export it to other third countries in the region. So that is the way, you know, we can cut down the deficit.
So the Make in India develops
this
as a
is
result.
part of the one of the part of the Make in India.
Ambassador Mukherjee, let's look at cultural ties, and you know, I did mention when I was standing there that Southeast Asia borrows from both countries, both ancient civilizations, and it's coexisted quite well, you know. And even India, China, even though the world looks at us as two Asian giants that are adversaries, there has been an element of coexistence for a very long time. I mean, there really hasn't been a war except the one war. in a sense, isn't it? So
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
and even though there is the border question, confidence building measures on the are continuously discussed, and they are also implemented to a large extent. So there is a way forward, maybe slow, but it is moving forward.
Absolutely, and in fact Indian civilization has influenced Chinese culture. I mean, whether it's the Buddhist circuit, it's the outward flow of the Indian culture from ancient India onwards, and the inflow of Chinese visitors who came and wrote about India in ancient times, and which actually provided an authentic account of Indian life and society at that time.
Absolutely,
So there is this huge connect, and there is something very significant in the fact that both our leaders are sitting there looking at the Indian Ocean, which actually was a connecting factor in this civilization. And if and you began by asking me about the Indo-Pacific, which is a dividing factor. So maybe we could reflect upon how to get over this divide, so that the Indian Ocean, which once was the great connect between China and India, could still play that role, which has now been taken over by the Indo-Pacific. That being said, there is also another issue, which is that on cultural and civilizational matters, there is huge cooperation multilaterally between China and India, and this is also of huge significance. Hopefully these kind of areas of cooperation may help to reduce irritants in the other areas of the relationship where there are many irritants, be they the relationship with Pakistan or nuclear, etc., etc. The fact that we have this connect could help to reduce irritants in other aspects of the relationship.
Right. And the media tends sometimes to focus on the irritants, but there's a lot happening, isn't it, Kamaraga, about this relationship? I mean, when there are two huge countries that have such a sphere of influence coming together, it can't just be, focused on a few irritants. There's a lot that the two countries can do together and stand on the same page together. What would you say? Yes.
Yeah, very true. We have a lot more common. We have also, these are the two big powers, they have a lot of responsibility otherwise also.
Yes.
So therefore it becomes very important, frequent meetings or discussions, and others. They have to discuss not only bilateral issues, of common interest, but also the regional and international issues, are very important. Trade, general trade, trade tariffs, trade wars are going on, which is affecting both the countries, India as well as unilateral sanctions which are being imposed. India is opposing that. Then India is also demanding reform in United Nations, within the UN establishment. Both the financial institution as. Secondly, Mark, one thing very important: multilateral world is emerging.
In fact, what we are showing on our screen is also the menu, Taste of India for President Xi. Carry on talking. Yes, so that's all. Those are
Mark,
actually.
We were talking too much about this, but Bollywood has also played a very important role with cementing the ties between the two. Indian films are very popular, and Imran name, I don't know the name.
Sorry?
The film actors, both the top, the Khan brothers are very popular over there. So what we are talking, the regional and international issues are very important between the two, because these two countries, as you mentioned, this is a Asian century, rise of Asia. In that context, it becomes very important. The two should bridge their differences and work together, to sort out these differences in the region, and can play, with European Union together and with other countries.
So, Ms. Mukherjee, this process, let's call it the informal summit process, is it something that's going to, play an important role in the future of diplomacy, one would think? Because let's take the Prime Minister's style. He likes this kind of a style, which and it seems to be very effective. It's diplomacy that strengthens personal bonds with world leaders in settings which are, culturally significant, and they are World Heritage sites. And, it's not only the capitals that matter, or, the rooms that are where the office space is. It's basically, it takes the entire relationship into a deeper level, because it's really like, connecting with the civilization in a sense.
Absolutely, Mark. It's our Prime Minister actually has brought about a much needed reform, because this was really required He is demonstrating soft power, he is building friendships in an informal setting, and he is actually also demonstrating that India's diplomacy has come of age, because this mechanism has been used in the West, but it had never been used earlier. Our Prime Minister was the first to do it, and in fact it seems that the Chinese also have never had such an informal summit meeting with any other country except India, which also increases the significance of this second informal summit. And in case it becomes an annual affair, it would also be very significant, because we would be having such an informal summit only with China, and China would be having such an informal arrangement only with India, and that itself would be a breakthrough as far as perceived irritants are concerned. So this is actually also a demonstration which our Prime Minister does so well of India's soft power, and what soft power can do is actually to remove irritants caused by overuse of hard power, and India is so good at demonstrating its soft power. So I think it was much required.
So Mr. Kamaraga, what do you expect then tomorrow? Because there will be one-on-one talks. Now the informal setting and the mood has been created. What should Prime Minister be, actually bringing to the table to be talking one-on-one with the Chinese President?
There are a number of issues,
In fact, these are visuals that are coming in live from Mamallapuram, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Xi Jinping. This is after the dinner, so the dinner is just over, and the Prime Minister is seeing off his guest, the Chinese President. And we also showed you a little bit of the menu at this dinner, and in a wonderful setting, I might add. We can see there spectacular food. It had takkali rasam, or tomato rasam, and also archavita sambar and kadalai kurma and various other kinds of rice halwa, and traditions of Chettinad to Karaikudi. All the regional cuisines of the region were brought together at the dinner table. And as Amritpal was telling us, the informal discussions were already taking place. Obviously, they took place over dinner. I mean, they were not just discussing the cuisine like we are, but they must have gone a little deeper, right? What would you say, ma'am?
Definitely. I'm sure that they would be discussing the immediate issues of the day, and it could also be international issues. I mean, whether it's the situation of Turkey's action in Syria, for instance.
Yes.
The trade sanctions against China, which have slowed down its economy, our own economic issues, our own issues vis-a-vis China on economy and trade. These could be one of the many issues which could have been raised in this informal setting, and clearly the talks have gone up very well, because the body language of the two leaders when they came out of the talks just showed how relaxed and how comfortable they were with each other. So I'm sure that we could expect from the body language of our two leaders, of our own leader, of our own Prime Minister, some really good breakthrough tomorrow. So
right, absolutely.
The food which you outlined, Mark, was a good backdrop to a good breakthrough in other
Certainly it looks like that. And Kamaraga, so what do you expect then? Will the discussions focus on tomorrow, and what kind of breakthrough? Because keeping in mind that this is a 90-member delegation that has come, and looks like a lot of businessmen want to invest
very
in
powerful
India.
Some Politburo member is there also, so that way it is very important. I think, apart from trade and bilateral issues, many other things would come up,
So regional and global issues.
Regional and global issues would.
And that's the change of the dynamics of the relationship, that the two countries are looking at regional and global issues together.
And then terrorism is also,
terrorism, as you mentioned, yes.
would be discussed there. And
terrorism means terrorism emanating from Pakistan.
General terrorism, because India has said that we will not discuss Kashmir issue. We made it clear, you know, to Chinese, because we have a lot of differences over there. So in this summit, it will not be discussed. But terrorism, yes, of course, Afghanistan is there.
Yes.
That would come up, you know, because both the countries, India as well as Afghanistan, are involved. China and India are involved in Afghanistan.
Right. No, but discussing terrorism emanating from Pakistan doesn't mean a discussion on Kashmir by any stretch of the imagination.
No, actually, I was just going to say that
that
India would be bound to tell the Chinese president of our huge concerns regarding jihadi terrorism emanating from Pakistan, and which is aimed at undermining the Indian democratic polity.
Very true.
And the risk that it poses to international peace and security, which China as a permanent member of the Security Council should be aware of. And perhaps we would have expressed appreciation that they finally came around to our perspective on Maulana Masood Azhar.
That's right.
And that perhaps we would have expressed hope that Pakistan should be placed on the blacklisting for terrorist financing and funding. So many of these issues which are of great concern to us, I think in such a relaxed setting with such good cuisine would be a good opportunity.
Yes, we certainly look forward to seeing what the outcomes are. In fact, there was a press conference that we are hopefully going to get soon about today's the outcomes of today's discussions. But also, we saw what was on the table today to eat, but we know also what's likely to be on the table for discussion tomorrow. Thank you very much, Baswati Mukherjee, for being with us in Kamaraga. And let's move on then to our next story. The cultural performance in the evening reflected India's cultural richness and diversity. And well, this function has been put together by India's premium cultural group Kalakshetra, that was set up by Ms. Rukmani Devi Orandel in 1936. So a Tamil song hailing peace and Mahatma Gandhi was sung to the accompaniment of traditional dance at the cultural event. The 40-minute cultural program drew to a close with the instrumentation and the instrumental rendition of Mahatma Gandhi's favorite hymn, Raghupati Raghav Raja Ram. And moving on to our next story then, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu and President of Comoros Azali Assoumani, they held wide-ranging talks in Moroni, and the two countries signed 6 agreements, MoUs, including one on defense cooperation. And Vice President Naidu, who is on a visit to Comoros and Sierra Leone from October 10th to 14th, was also conferred with the Order of the Green Crescent. And this is the highest civilian honor of Comoros by President Assoumani.
India and Comoros on Friday signed 6 crucial agreements in various fields, including culture, healthcare, education and defense. The agreements and MoU were signed after delegation-level talks between Vice President Venkaiah Naidu and President of Comoros, Azali Assoumani, in Moroni. Both countries decided to exempt each other from visa for diplomatic and official passport holders for short visits. The Vice President said that as a maritime neighbor, India is ready to share the experience of its progress with the people of Comoros.
President Azali and I were happy to witness signing of some important agreements. We have signed MoU on defense cooperation. We have signed important agreements on health and culture. We have decided to exempt each other from visa requirement for the holders of diplomatic and official passport for short visits. Let me share with you, Comorian citizens have already been granted a visa facility by Government of India.
The Vice President also thanked President Azali Assoumani for Comoros' support in common fight against terror, as well as for reforms in the Security Council and its continued support to India's candidature for a permanent seat in the United Nations Security Council. Vice President Naidu noted the scourge of terrorism is the most noxious reality of today's world.
I thank the President, Sri Azadi Asomani, for the Comoros' support in our common fight against terrorism, because terrorism is the enemy of humanity, and also their support for the reforms in the Security Council and its continued support to India's candidature for a permanent seat in the United Nations Security Council.
The Vice President expressed happiness over the fact that Comoros has now become a member of the International Solar Alliance and has signed and ratified its framework agreement. The Vice President also announced that India will be gifting medicines and medical equipment worth $1 million for transport vehicles, $2 million for procurement of high-speed interceptor boats, and 1,000 metric tons of rice. He also announced line of credit of $41.6 million for setting up an 18-megawatt power plant in Moroni and a vocational training center. Showing extraordinary gesture of friendship, the President of Comoros conferred Vice President Venkaiah Naidu with his country's highest civilian honor, the Order of the Green Crescent. Accepting the honor, the Vice President said that he was touched by this extraordinary gesture as a symbol of India-Comoros friendship. Later, the Vice President also addressed the Parliament session there.
You have not only honored me, but also honored the world's largest democracy. My visit to Comoros is truly historic, since it is the first ever bilateral visit by an Indian Vice President to your great country. I bring to my brothers and sisters of Comoros the good wishes of the Parliament of India as well as the people of India.
Vice President's visit to Comoros is part of India's Africa outreach policy. On the second leg of his visit, the Vice President will arrive in Freetown, Sierra Leone on October 12th. With inputs from Girish Nishana, News Night Desk, DD News.
And the Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has said that she is regularly in touch and in talks with representatives of the automobile industry, and she was ready to hold talks with members of other industries as well. Addressing a press conference in Pune in Maharashtra, the Finance Minister also said that the government is open to every suggestion in this regard.
No, I've been interacting with the automobile sector, not just in Pune, but also automobile sector from all over the country. They had come and met me twice over in Delhi. So most of their suggestions that we have taken on board, we have already responded on. And if there are any more, they are very welcome to tell me.
And with elections fast approaching, campaigning has intensified for the upcoming assembly polls in Haryana and Maharashtra. While the BJP President Amit Shah was in Maharashtra campaigning for the party, the BJP working president JP Nadda was in Rewari in Haryana. And the Congress too has released its manifesto for Haryana. Here's more.
Political activity is gathering momentum ahead of assembly elections in Haryana and Maharashtra, and efforts are on to woo the voters in the two poll-bound states. BJP National President Amit Shah, while holding a rally, gave an account of the work done by the government at the centre and also hit out for the dynasty politics of the Congress and the NCP. The BJP president said that Prime Minister Modi has done something that no other leader could do in 70 years. He added that by abrogating Article 370 from J&K, Prime Minister Modi brought J&K into the mainstream.
Modi ji ne Pradhan Mantri बनने के बाद सबसे पहला काम किया धारा 370 को उठा.
The Congress on Friday released its poll manifesto for the Haryana Assembly elections, promising loan waiver for the farmers and reservation for women in government jobs. Describing it as Sankalp Patra, the party in the manifesto promised 33% reservation to women in the government jobs and private institutions in the state, and free rides in Haryana roadways buses. The party also promised 50% reservation for women in the Panchayati Raj institution, municipality corporations and city councils. The party also promised to give an annual scholarship of 12,000 rupees to students belonging to the scheduled caste and extremely backward class from class 1st to class 10th and 15,000 rupees for those in class 11th and class 12. An allowance of 7,000 rupees will be given to graduates and 10,000 rupees for a postgraduate until they secure a job. BJP's working president JP Nadda campaigned for the party in Rewari. He said the Chief Minister Manohar Lal has ensured a transparent and honest style of functioning across the state. He also said that in the previous government, corruption was rampant. But the Chief Minister Manohar Lal has put an end to the malpractice. With Bureau Inputs, News Night Desk, DD India.
And JP Nadda was in Rewari, and I had told you Rewari, but it's Rewari. Moving on to our next story then. Union Agriculture Minister Narendra Singh Tomar said agriculture and allied sector cooperatives have a huge potential and a big role in making India a $5 trillion economy in the next 5 years. So the minister inaugurated the first ever 3-day India International Cooperatives Trade Fair at Pragati Maidan in New Delhi. Representatives from over 150 cooperative societies in 35 countries, including Australia, Japan, China, Brazil, US, UK, Germany and Iran, are participating in this fair. The fair is expected to create a conducive environment. This is for the cooperative trade globally.
The first ever India International Cooperatives Trade Fair got underway in New Delhi on Friday. The 3-day fair is a major platform to promote export of products of cooperatives, which will lead to enhanced rural and farm prosperity. Addressing the gathering during the inauguration, Agriculture Minister Narendra Singh Tomar said cooperation is the key to development of our villages, and this Mela will prove to be a milestone in the growth of rural India.
इस मेले में उत्पाद भी मौजूद है और खरीदार भी मौजूद है। तो मैं समझता हूँ सहकारी क्षेत्र के इस कार्यक्रम के माध्यम से लोगों को विपणन का भी रास्ता मिलेगा, टेक्नोलॉजी भी मिलेगी और अपने उत्पाद की और अच्छे से ब्रांडिंग कर सकें जो वर्ल्ड क्लास हो और दूरस्थ देशों में भी उसको खरीदा जा सके। यह सीखने के लिए भी ये बड़ा प्लेटफॉर्म है।
Organizations from 35 countries are participating in the fair and they all express their happiness at being part of the mega event.
हमारी टैगलाइन ही है कोऑपरेटिव इज द वे टू कलेक्टिव ग्रोथ। ये हमारी टैगलाइन है। कलेक्टिव ग्रोथ होना है, बड़ा बनना है, तो अगर हम सहकारी क्षेत्र से जुड़ के काम करेंगे तो हम और ज़्यादा ग्रो हो सकते हैं।
बड़ा अच्छा लग रहा है, महिलाओं के लिए एक बहुत अच्छा मौका है, उनको आगे बढ़ने का जानकारी होगी। अगर महिलाएं आके इस मेले में देखेंगी कुछ तो उनको सीखने को भी मिलेगा और महिलाएं आगे बढ़ सकती हैं। मेरा मानना है ऐसे मेले लगते रहने चाहिए और महिलाओं को प्रोत्साहन मिलेगा और महिला सशक्तिकरण को बढ़ावा मिलेगा।
The minister also launched Yuva Sahakar Cooperative Enterprise Support and Innovation Scheme 2019. With more than 150 Indian cooperatives taking part in the event, it is a historic occasion to discuss the challenges faced by cooperatives like delivery and available markets, among others. With inputs from Urmilesh Bhatt, News Night Desk, DD India.
And the Union HRD Minister Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank inaugurated 13 newly constructed buildings of Kendriya Vidyalayas and laid the foundation stones for 6 buildings through video conferencing. Now these Kendriya Vidyalayas, they are located in 12 states and union territories across the country. And this was the first time that such a large number of new buildings were inaugurated or the foundation stones were laid for. And, well, the minister also laid the foundation stone for one national Navodaya Leadership Institute. This was at Puri. And he spoke on the occasion and he said that these institutions are providing quality education to talented and meritorious students of rural areas and making them more competent for prestigious examinations.
इन 3 वर्षों में हमने पूरे नवोदय विद्यालयों को डिजिटल के रूप में स्थापित कर दिया है। सभी अभिभावकों, चाहे वो नियुक्तियों का हो, चाहे वो प्रवेश का हो, चाहे स्थानांतरण का हो, सभी गतिविधियां ये ऑनलाइन पर हो रही हैं और सभी लोग उसको देख सकते हैं। उसमें पारदर्शिता भी है, समयबद्धता भी है और आपको मालूम है कि समय की बचत के साथ साथ जो अनियमितताएं हैं वो भी खत्म हुई हैं इस प्रक्रिया से।
Well, Atma is a project of the union government, and it's transforming when it comes to agriculture. Well, farmers in Uttar Dinajpur district of West Bengal, they are benefiting from this project. Let's look at this report.
Rice farming has started in Uttar Dinajpur district with the help of transplanter machine under Union Government's Atma project. Our team went to Ratan village of Kaliaganj block of Uttar Dinajpur district, where with the support of the Kaliaganj Agriculture Office, farmers were encouraged to use transplanter machine to sow seeds for rice. Our team observed that the farmers can plant seeds of aromatic rice in Uttar Dinajpur district through this transplanter machine.
We are happy about this new technology. Now we can sow seeds faster. This reduces cost and we get good out.
Farmers are happy to plant paddy seedlings with the help of such improvement of technology through the central government's Atma project. Earlier, they used to plant these paddy seedlings with more workforce and material cost. Now the workers are not feeling that way anymore. Badal Dev Sharma, a farmer in the area, said that with such advanced technology, they can now plant more paddy seedlings.
Farmers have been trained to use transplant machines. Transplanting of paddy has become much easier with this technique.
Union Government's Atma project is indeed transforming the agriculture landscape of Uttar Dinajpur district of West Bengal, thereby benefiting farmers. With inputs from Kolkata Bureau, Ground Report Desk, DD News.
You're watching Newsnight, and it's time now for our regional roundup.
Flight service started from Ghaziabad's Hindan Airport to Pithoragarh on 11th October. The first flight left for Pithoragarh at 2:15 in the afternoon. It was flagged off by Uttarakhand Chief Minister Trivendra Singh Rawat. The portals of Hemkund Sahib, a high-altitude Sikh shrine in Garhwal Himalayas, were closed for the winter season. Over 3,000 Sikh devotees braved the chill to pay obeisance at the temple before its ceremonial closure in the afternoon after the recital of prayers. The doors of the temple will be reopened in May. Justice S. Mani Kumar is sworn in as the Chief Justice of the Kerala High Court at a brief ceremony at Raj Bhavan in Kerala. He succeeds Justice Hrishikesh Roy, who was elevated to the Supreme Court. Governor Arif Muhammad Khan administered the oath of office to the new Chief Justice. Congress leader P. Chidambaram will appear before a special CBI court in New Delhi in connection with the INX media case on Monday afternoon. The production warrant was issued after the Enforcement Directorate approached the court to seek the former Union Minister's custody so he can be further questioned on the alleged money laundering scam. Pakistan violated the ceasefire at the line of control in Nowshera sector of the Rajouri district in Jammu and Kashmir. In Uttar Pradesh, 7 members of a family were killed when a bus rammed into a group of sleeping pilgrims in Aurora, Bulandshahr this morning. Police said the driver of the bus was on the run.
And the Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed was on Friday awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for his efforts to resolve his country's conflict with Eritrea. Now, the Norwegian Nobel Committee in its statement said that the committee has decided to award the Nobel Peace Prize for 2019 to the Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed Ali for his effort to achieve peace and international cooperation, and in particular for his decisive initiative to resolve the border conflict with the neighboring Eritrea. The Norwegian Nobel Committee hopes that the Nobel Peace Prize, it will strengthen the Prime Minister's efforts in his important work for peace and reconciliation. And with that, we conclude Newsnight for tonight. Thank you for being with us. Namaskar.